This is $20 million in cash right here. Here's $300,000 in singles, $30 million in $100 bills.
Whether it's cash, gold, or digital bits, we all know that money makes the world go round. And what that money is worth depends on trust. Trust that the engines that power it all won't fail.
I'm Jake Ward, and for the first time, National Geographic is going to take you inside the system.
Places that you're not allowed to bring a camera, straight into the vaults of the world's largest stash of what you want, need, and bust your butt to get.
Money.
One of the places that truly controls money is the Central Bank of the United States, the Federal Reserve. They count it, store it, move it, inflate it, deflate it, destroy, stabilize, lend, and buy it, and make a profit off of it. But above all, they protect it. And it's not just cash. For over 80 years, armored vehicles have navigated Manhattan's narrow streets, carrying millions and sometimes billions in gold deposits in and out of the one Federal Reserve Bank trusted enough to guard almost 1/4 of the world's entire gold supply. You heard it right. Nearly 25% lives here at 33 Liberty Street. Today, a hefty deposit is on its way in, and this driver is the first line of defense. For obvious reasons, we can't really tell you his name, but he's not alone. His partners are armed, and the vehicle itself is like a vault on wheels, able to withstand bullets, even hand grenades. Delivery is a well-choreographed and deadly serious exchange between the driver and the Federal Reserve's police force. This small stack may not look like much, but if you tried to put it in the back of your car, you'd blow out the tires.
There are a lot of guns here right now. It's kind of nerve-wracking to be around it.
The gold is met at the loading dock by the Fed's vault auditor and its custodians.
We have over a ton of gold right here, and street value today is over $55 million.
Are you still into gold? Like, does gold have an effect on you emotionally, or are you sick of gold?
You never get sick of the gold.
Yeah, really?
It puts a smile on people's faces when they come down to see it, and even puts a smile on our face when we're down there working with it. It just never loses its luster.
Our camera crew is making a normally smooth exchange a little hectic.
They're obviously a little nervous about it because this is a first. There's not a lot of hanging out with the gold just sitting here.
After sorting out who's allowed to go inside with the cameras, they get down to the business of making the deposit. There's an almost sacred ritual that handlers go through when moving gold. It's all very quiet and solemn, no chit-chat or small talk. The armored truck company's drivers are fully responsible for the gold as they descend 24 meters below street level to the world's largest underground gold vault. Only at the entrance does it officially become the keep of the New York Fed. And this is the way it's been done since the Fed first opened the vault in 1924. The New York Bank is one of 12 that make up the Federal Reserve System. Together, they're like the ultimate piggy bank, a place where your bankers bank. And if there's a financial panic, the Fed acts as a lender of last resort. That creates a kind of trust in the entire system. So from the beginning, Fed banks were built to look imposing, like fortresses of money. The New York Fed's vault rests on bedrock to handle the weight of the gold. Engineers dreamed up an ingenious way to guard it. A 90-ton steel cylinder that revolves vertically in a 140-ton steel and concrete frame. When it rotates, it drops almost 2 centimeters to create an air and watertight seal. No one person is given all of the combinations or keys to the various locking systems, so someone is always watching.
So now there's 3 of you. It takes 3 people to open the door?
Yeah.
I see.
2 vault custodians and an auditor.
Welcome to about a quarter of the world's official gold supply. Just one of these bars is worth 640,000 US bucks. So we're talking upwards of 380 billion US dollars. The bars are weighed on a good old-fashioned balance scale.
Once everything's on,
Yeah.
you're going to turn the crank.
Okay, okay.
It's going to be a little, not that difficult, but a little bit, because all that weight will be on it.
It's a critical step because each bar is slightly different, making each deposit unique. The scale measures down to 1/3 of a gram. That's about 1/3 of a US paper bill. Still, that's worth about 17 US dollars. Ron here has stood as guardian of the gold for 40 years.
This is the year in which the bars were cast. This is the purity, and this is the maker of the bar, the assayer, and this is a serial number. Each bar has to have its own serial number.
What happens if you drop a bar like this on your feet?
If you don't have this on, you'll be in the hospital.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so I'm about to pick up $640,000. That is a life-changing sum of money. Whoa, whoa. It is so much heavier than you think it's gonna be.
Gold is very dense.
Wow. So whose gold are we handling right now?
Country, central bank.
Do you know? I mean, can we tell from looking
Oh,
at
no,
this?
we can't tell.
You can't tell me?
No.
I see. There are rules about that kind of thing.
The Fed's discretion and intense security are so trusted that few depositors have ever even asked to see if their gold is still here.
So let's say that, you know, one of these bars got out of the vault, God forbid, and out into the street, and somebody melted it down. Would there be any way of identifying this gold again?
Not if they melted it down.
No.
But if they tried to sell it like this here, they would find out.
For thousands of years, people used gold as money. And why not? It's shiny, it's pretty, and like the man said, once you melt it down, it's untraceable. Or put another way, it's the perfect recyclable money. One of the places where this precious metal's given new life is New York's Diamond District.
On these 2 blocks of New York, $24 billion in cash changes hands every year. We've negotiated access to get behind the storefronts to see how everybody from low-end street dealers to high-end brokers are dealing in gold.
Hello. Hello, how you doing, sir?
Very good.
Alexander Rogovsky has a hefty chunk of that 24 billion inside his bag.
Selling today?
Got some gold, got some silver bar.
He has gold to sell, a lot of it, and he's about to find out what it's all
I
worth.
was wondering if you can tell me what I can get for this.
Надо что, пускай тянут, реально пускай скажут сумму. Когда если, послушай, если они 14 берут, пускай тянут и 3 недели. Is this 14?
Dmitry Nezhinsky is one of hundreds of brokers who work New York's gold district. Business is booming. When there's a financial crisis, people tend to look for security in gold.
Here is 18 karat.
Yeah, it goes up and down, but now it's better than other times because it just came up from 1,500, so you're selling it at the right time.
In 2010 alone, the price of gold hit record highs 22 times.
We pay top dollar for your gold.
The gold comes in from all walks of life, so it helps that Dmitry can speak 5 languages.
Around, you come back here, okay? 48, $14,064 for 14 karat gold. Then you have 10 karat gold. I can give you $1,800 for that.
The coin, this coin is the pure gold, right?
So this is $20,900. I'll give you $11 difference, so you could come back to us.
Thank you very much.
Dimitri?
Yes. Hi.
I'm Jake.
Hi. How are you?
Very
nice to meet you.
To meet you. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
And how much do you see in a day? How many people come through here?
In a day, it depends. It could be anywhere from 5 to 50, 70 people a day.
What happens to the gold once you've gotten it, right? You buy a day's worth of gold. What do you then do with it?
Once we buy gold, let's say we buy, this is about $25,000 worth of gold.
Okay.
Once we buy this gold, we melt it down to a small brick, and then we have it tested and sell it.
Can I watch you
Sure,
melt it down?
definitely, sure.
I'd like to see it.
Now most of the jewelry we have is 14 karat.
The nooks and crannies of the gold district are full of places like this. Millions of dollars flowing in and out. Some, like Dimitri's, even have a foundry in the basement.
How are you, my friend? No. Oh my God, you serious?
It's the mayor, this guy.
Please, man, I wanted to melt it. Not ready? Okay.
It's kind of an amazing thing, right? Like, this is, you know, people's memories, their treasured heirlooms. Some of it was in the ground 1,000 years ago, some of it was a pair of earrings 1,000 years ago, and now it's all been melted back down again, and someday it will be somebody else's heirloom. It's crazy how liquid this really is. So, are you sick of gold? I mean, do you still like the look of gold?
I love it.
You do?
I love it, yeah.
You do?
Yeah, definitely. Who doesn't?
The gold that leaves here is recast and reborn as another person's treasure, continuing to make money along the way. Every couple of hours, trillions of US dollars changes hands around the world. All that money used to be backed by gold, but not anymore. Today, our buck is backed by a promise from the US government. The fact that it all works based on trust alone is simply taken for granted.
Hi, good morning.
I'm trusting this driver with my money and my life, right? I'm trusting that he's not going to cheat me. I'm trusting he's going to take the fastest and most efficient route possible. And I'm trusting him not to kill us both. Ooh. That kind of trust is at the heart of the financial world. The whole system is built on the assumption that our cash and our credit cards and even our bank accounts are worth something. But what I want to know is, who's in charge? I've come to Washington, D.C. to meet the head of the entire Fed system.
know, he's been dealt some of the most difficult cards in the history of finance.
You said that Mr. Bernanke just happens to be the most powerful nerd on the planet.
The Fed that was responsible for this. Sure, the Fed played a role.
Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke is one of the most powerful men in the world when it comes to your money. He holds the reins to our central bank, an institution controlled by both the public and private sector.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank
Welcome.
you. Thanks very much for making the time. I know you guys.
What would life be like without the Federal Reserve?
We don't have to speculate. We know what it looked like because there was no Federal Reserve before 1913. During the 19th century, there were periodic financial crises where people would run on the banks and pull out their deposits, where the stock market would crash.
When most of us think of bank runs, we think of the stock market crash of 1929. But in 1907, a massive panic threatened to annihilate the economy. There was nothing the government could do to stop it, until billionaire J.P. Morgan and his rich friends tapped into their personal wealth to bail out the banks.
Which led Congress to say, look, enough is enough. We've got to have a central bank that can manage these crises. And that was the beginning of the process that led to the Federal Reserve.
You're in the Situation Room happening now. We're following breaking news.
Less than 2 years after Chairman Bernanke took office, he was faced with the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression.
In a panic, when people are pulling all their money out of financial institutions, what the central bank does is provide short-term loans, which help the banks stabilize. And that's what we did during 2008, 2009.
But what about those who don't agree with the Fed's actions?
They bail out Morgan Stanley and then Goldman Sachs. When I up, who bails me out? No one. And the Federal Reserve. And the fractional banking system. And the Fed.
If you ask most people, I think they would say that the Fed spent a lot of taxpayer money trying to stop the crisis and bailed out banks and that kind of thing. The fact is the Fed doesn't spend government money. What the Fed does is buy and sell assets in the market.
Those assets are U.S. Treasury bonds and government-guaranteed mortgage securities.
Or we make short-term loans, which are then repaid.
Loans repaid with interest.
In the last 3 years, the Fed has given the Treasury $200 billion. That's profit, that's not loss, that's not cost.
While decisions in Washington, D.C. affect the state of the nation's wallet, the Fed's 12 regional banks make sure there's enough physical cash to go around. Whether to fill new orders or replace your old worn-out bills, they call here, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Because when it comes to trusting your money, first appearances mean everything.
There are very particular rules for how we can shoot here. We can't show you the walls, we can't really shoot down the hallways, we have to keep it tight, and there's cameras everywhere. This is an incredibly secure facility.
The BEP fills annual print orders for the Fed. In 2011, that meant a whopping 23 million U.S. bills a day. And each bill gets a serial number and a code that tells which bank is charged for production.
If you look at any bill you have in your pocket, there's a small number and a letter together. Mine says C3. This series says F6. That stands for the Atlanta Federal Reserve Bank. And so you know that if the F and the number 6 don't correspond, F is the 6th letter in the alphabet, then that's a fake note.
Although it looks like money as it flies through the presses, it's not official until it's cut, wrapped, and sent to one of the 28 Federal Reserve operations centers around the country, where cash deliveries flow in and out by the ton. It's 7 a.m., and I just got dropped off in East Rutherford, New Jersey, at the New York Fed's Currency Operations Center, called EROC.
It's a neighborhood, you know, it looks pretty ordinary, except that in and out every day flows billions of dollars in cash. It looks like maybe a prison, could be a high school.
But what it really is one of the world's largest above-ground vaults. The entire facility is enclosed with a modest-looking fence. But don't let it fool you. This thing can stop a semi-truck dead in its tracks.
The building is also studded with over 800 cameras. They're watching our every move.
One of the beauties of the system is that when a door or an alarm goes off, it'll automatically generate that camera view onto our system, and that's how it's set up. That camera will turn and take a shot of wherever that alarm was, and some of the other cameras in the area, if they're pan and tilts, will also turn to the area of concern to make sure that we have extra eyes and a better quick view of what's going on.
And even if you got past all of that, you'd have to deal with this guy. The Fed has its own specially trained police force, and some of the facilities even have a private shooting range.
If the building were, you know, just by itself with unarmed guards, do you think that would be enough? It feels to me like a really hard place to break into, even if everybody here was just carrying sort of batons. Do you need the guns?
Absolutely. That's what makes us a hard target. You have to understand something, that we're not the ones that set the standards. The people who want to do damage to the facility or the people are the ones that do. We just react to what they do. Even though we're very proactive, we still don't set the standards the bad guys do.
If you've ever spent $1 in cash in New York City, that dollar has probably been through this building. This is the hub of all physical currency that would move through this area.
It's where your bankers bank. Deposits come in and withdrawals go out to the tune of millions each day. It's entered by the bagful into the Fed's accounts. It's then moved to a vault that can hold tens of billions.
This is $20 million in cash right here in 50s and 100s. Here's $300,000 in singles. Here's $1.5 million in fives. There's room behind me for 5,400 of these boxes controlled by a robotic system.
It's like the movie Wall-E in here, except they're pushing cash instead of trash. The robots operate independently, guided entirely by laser positioning. And it's not just about security. They actually save the Fed money in manpower. Cash, especially coin, weighs tons.
Here, this is the reject reel. This is where any suspected counterfeit notes, wrong denominator, that reel.
At Iraq, Bob Krause is in charge of the whole shebang.
Brought over here to the...
And what comes in and out of currency ops is his domain.
It's $1,000 in quarters. This is $1,000 in quarters right here. Holy cow, that's a lot of money. That is. This is parking meters for the year for me.
And laundry.
And laundry, all done right now. Wow.
Oh, so this is where the nation's loose change ends up.
Do you find yourself sort of just personally casting pennies aside the way I do, or do you think about it differently than that?
Oh, I think about it differently, just like I think about the dollar bills differently. When I take my money in my pocket, I fold it up nice and neatly, whereas opposed to other people that don't. And the same thing with pennies. To me, it's all, you know, I have a different perspective on it.
In the real world, our cash takes a lot of abuse, but it still has a long lifespan. Thanks in part to a small team of stress testers in Washington, D.C. American currency needs to be not just an enduring symbol, but it actually has to endure. The durability of money is part of the work of this lab, which is part of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. And Virgil here is going to show me how much money can take.
Okay, the chemicals we use are 1% sulfuric acid, sodium hydroxide 2%, bleach, carbon tet may be used by a dry cleaner.
How long do these sit here?
We leave them in 24 hours, so we'll take them out tomorrow.
Wow, and it'll, after 24 hours in sulfuric acid, your 20 will survive. It'll still be a usable bill.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Picked randomly from the millions printed, Virgil mimics what the average Joe can throw at his money. And then some.
We will soak this note in 2% sodium hydroxide, some denatured alcohol. If you would please write 267 any place on the note. The Federal Reserve wants to know, and the people that use it, is this money going to handle ordinary use? Toss the notes in, please.
Throw them on in there, yep.
And we want it to be a square. We're going to roll it one direction.
Okay.
And put it in the crumple machine.
This bill goes through terrible things. Poor Andrew Jackson.
I don't see any ink loss on this one.
Note survives. Cash does eventually wear out, and when it does, the Fed plucks it from circulation at currency centers like Iraq.
So what happens with these deposits that goes through the machine is sensors are checking for the quality of that money.
Right.
And it's through a series of light emissions in a note.
Yeah.
And based on that, it decides whether it's a good note or bad note.
Yeah, sure.
If it's a good note, it goes to the vault and it's recirculated.
Right.
If it's not, it goes into a shredder, it sucks down the tube.
No kidding.
Goes into
They destroy it right here.
Right here. Right
So
here.
when you say bad note, I mean, we're talking like a torn note or one that's got dirt, schmutz on it or something. Right. So, for instance, like if
I can't really, you're not supposed to bring any money out here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But
it turns out that having cash in your pocket is a security
something
breach.
my wife gave me, right?
I love Jake. Okay, no.
Has a nice thing on it. This would get rejected.
That would be destroyed.
That would be destroyed.
immediately. I'm going to have to ask you to put that away.
I'm sorry. Sure, I'll put it away. But so let's say the kind of currency that I would have in my pocket, right, or that anybody has in their wallet, I take it to the bank, I deposit it there. Eventually, all the money that people have in their wallets makes its way through a machine like this?
So at some point in time, I would think it would.
In rare and extreme cases, the Fed faces a job that is simply too big for the machines to process and shred. In the months following Hurricane Katrina, the Fed spent a number of weeks burning millions of water-soaked, moldy bills. In all, over 190 million worth of cash. The Fed's most important job during a crisis is to keep money available. Imagine if our ATMs ran dry. Yet when the unthinkable happens, moving money can become a logistical nightmare in an instant.
The aircraft involved this morning, American Airlines Flight 11, Boston to Los Angeles. That was the first.
What we're about to show you is footage captured on 9/11 from the many New York Federal Reserve security cameras.
We really never even got to that close to the building. The explosion blew and it knocked everybody over.
These images have never been broadcast before.
We're here, not 500 feet from where the Trade Center stood. And I remember it, even though it was more than 10 years ago, like it was yesterday, this incredible noise.
We started to see paper raining in the sky.
When the South Tower collapsed, there was this enormous dust cloud.
And then you felt the heat, a block and a half away, through the window of that fireball. You could actually feel the heat against your face.
We looked up at our cameras and saw our officers. I think the quote was, "They're running, that's not good, why are they running?"
It was like midnight when that dust cloud enveloped this building. So what the officers did down on the ground floor is they changed the normal command, which is lock the building down, and they opened the doors, and they were bringing people in off the street.
And then the people started to run into the building. Smoke and ashes and dust and just shock on their face. And it's amazing. And people were running out of the building. And we were trying to tell people, don't run out because you don't know what's out there.
The heart of the world's financial center was a war zone. People fled, trading halted, payments froze.
Folks are trying to use their cell phones. We're using any means possible to try to communicate. A, know where our staff is and we're accounting for, and B, try to get into contact with the institutions.
Nationwide, planes were grounded, and the fear was that the checks they carried wouldn't clear.
The biggest challenge you have after something like this as a central bank is you want to prevent a massive human crisis from becoming an economic and financial one as well.
On the day of the attack, the Fed issued a simple press release telling the world they were open and operating. They would keep money flowing.
What you're really trying to do is make sure that people can still live their lives. Cash is available. They can use checks. They can use debit cards. Small companies that are expecting payments for goods, they can reasonably expect those payments to go on.
One of the things that happened in the late afternoon on September 11th, as this mass exodus took place, they would go to ATM machines and take out cash.
We were asked by management to get well over $1 billion cash into the city from East Rutherford. Everything was closed, obviously, at that time, highways, bridges. So we made a caravan to bring us over the bridge, and then that money could be brought to a facility that could break it down and send it to all the ATMs and get done what needed to be done.
The after effects of the strike on the towers could have been so much worse. One of our base duties was to make sure there wasn't the destruction of confidence in this financial heart of the United States.
The Fed's role as a protector doesn't just kick in during a crisis. Every day, teams at processing centers across the country fend off attacks on the currency itself. Which one of these bills is fake? I can't tell, and chances are neither can you.
The counterfeit section was really an eye-opener. $300,000, and all of it phony.
All our buck has behind it is the belief that our government will make good on it.
This number could be used to warn banks and business houses.
When you start messing with that fundamental trust, the government gets mad.
The maximum penalty for passing one counterfeit note is 15 years imprisonment in a federal penitentiary and a $5,000 fine.
During the Civil War, more than a third of all currency in circulation was fake. So many state banks printed their own bills, counterfeits were hard to detect. Nonetheless, penalties were harsh, sometimes death by hanging. Today, the Fed, Treasury, Secret Service, and the BEP team up to embed U.S. currency with all kinds of tricks that make it tough to copy. It all begins with a single hand-etched plate. Master engraver Chris Madden has been at it for 28 years.
There are many innovations, as there has been throughout the history of banknote engraving, to help to deter counterfeiting.
It turns out Ben Franklin was one of the first American engravers to create designs to frustrate counterfeiters.
You'd pick a leaf off the ground and make an impression of that leaf in the printing press, and that would provide a very unique pattern, because each leaf kind of is unique unto itself, and that would help to deter counterfeiting.
And some of the tools have hardly changed since Ben's time.
You learn during the first years of your apprenticeship how to dress this very tip of the tool in such a way that it will cut V-shaped lines, like a plow going through a field, into this highly polished steel. Now we do that in reverse.
That's right, backwards. So when it prints, it looks normal. The depth of the cut is a key element in the intaglio printing process.
The V-shaped cut will translate the image, but also give you one of the sensory considerations that make intaglio so secure, and that is you get tactility. You feel that. And subconsciously, when I hand a bill at that point of exchange from myself to you, there's a subconscious thing that kicks in that says, well, that feels right.
Where the painstaking, quiet work of the engraver ends, the pressman's job begins.
This is Donovan. He runs the press. Hello, how are you?
Welcome to the Bureau of Engraving and Printing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, can you show me some money?
Yeah. Show me the money, right?
Show me the money, please.
I'll show you all the money you want to see over here.
I'll tell you right now, this is not a good job for me.
Next time we'll build these presses a little higher to accommodate
that would have
you.
been nice.
All right, so what we have here is the back printing process on the Super Orloff intaglio. And you're looking at ink in the engraving. So the sheet is going to come right on top of your head right here.
Yeah.
And it comes down and it goes between those two cylinders, the impression cylinder and the plate cylinder.
How much pressure ends up between those two plates?
Yes. On the back you'll get 40 to 50, on the face you get 50 to 60. Tons of pressure forcing the paper into these images of our currency and getting the ink to be embedded, force it into the paper itself. So it's not laying on the surface.
Right. So
as a copy counterfeit note would look like.
Right. I feel like here comes the money. Oh,
so here comes the thunder. That thumping noise you're hearing is that pressure being applied.
The smell of the inks is strong, huh? I mean, it feels like they have a very powerful scent.
The BEP uses more than 4 types of ink that dry separately to prevent smudging. Some can shift color tone when seen from different angles. The paper is a combination of cotton and linen. The printer pounds words into it so small that they can only be seen under magnification.
What's a piece of microprinting, for instance?
You could look, and I'll point it out to you.
Wow. There's an extremely small line that says the United States of America, 20 USA, 20 USA. Wow.
Now you have just passed the test of the day.
That is an extremely small piece of writing right there.
There's been at least one counterfeit operation capable of producing this kind of detail. It's called the North Korean supernote, and you could have one in your pocket right now. Sophisticated presses like the intaglio at the BEP are used to protect our money. And they're not cheap. Over 7 million apiece. If your enemy has one, you could be in serious trouble.
North Korea is rumored to have bought exactly the same machine as this one. The Secret Service is trying to figure out how do they get it, and where are they getting the inks? The inks here are incredibly proprietary, so where are they buying them? How are they getting them? These are the big questions for keeping American currency secure.
A San Francisco Chinatown merchant is standing trial accused of passing counterfeit $100 bills. Bills printed so perfectly, they fooled most of the banks.
The government accused North Korea of making supernotes and passing them through an extensive international network of Asian organized crime.
The notes contain a minute flaw. The printing of the N is slightly off. Otherwise, it's nearly perfect. The Secret Service first identified supernotes in 1989, and they're believed to still be in circulation today. We may not be able to stop the North Koreans, but we can change the game. The 100 has been given a makeover. once in 1996 using a larger portrait, and again in a newer version. This latest design has a bell in the inkwell that changes color, the Gold 100, micro printing on Ben's collar, a security thread to Ben's left that lights up pink under ultraviolet light, and a 3D ribbon on the right that is actually woven into the paper, not printed. These new changes may foil the counterfeiters, but designers have yet to work out the kinks in production. So for now, the old Ben will have to do. Protecting the physical cash is one thing, but it's the Fed's cyber vault that is under constant siege. Electronic accounts, monetary debits and credits, all of that money is represented digitally. The Fed's firewalls block an estimated 300 million cyber attacks nationwide every day. But what would happen if the Fed had no role? And instead, electronic currency was self-regulated by the very computer that made it.
It turns out that there's a way to produce money without having to engrave it or print it. You can really just make it up out of nothing. That's the deal with an internet currency called Bitcoin.
Anyone can use it, but it's not like a payment system where you need a bank or a credit card. Its value is the code itself.
So thanks, as always, for joining me on The Bitcoin Show. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow at
One major Bitcoin owner created a web series about it. They call him Mr. Bitcoin.
So tune in tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Hey, Bruce.
How's it going?
Hi, I'm Jake.
Hi, Jake. Great
Sorry
to meet you.
I hope I didn't,
No. We just wrapped it up. Come on in, check it out. This is our studio where we tape The Bitcoin Show.
Oh, wow, I really
alpaca rug.
I like your alpaca rug. I was just going to say.
Digital currency. Bitcoins are digital coins.
Bitcoins are basically just digital coins traded between computers. You can log on and mine for them, like virtual gold, or buy them from another Bitcoin user. The writer of the program remains anonymous and created a finite amount. Like gold, the value changes daily. You can buy video games, gifts, books, computers, even alpaca socks.
You see down here at the bottom, they've got the Bitcoin Accepted Here logo.
Will people buy houses, boats with this? What's the limit?
There's no limit. You can send, a millionth of a penny or $1 million, the password to the
But there's also no Federal Reserve backing it up.
So you can just literally click.
It's been hacked and associated with illicit activities like drug deals.
Crimes are committed with cash. Most crimes are.
Yeah.
You can't really blame the green paper cash. And Bitcoin's no different.
Just like cash. If you lose your Bitcoins, they are gone. Or if you forget the password to your account, like Stefan Thomas did. He got paid in Bitcoins when he created an advertisement for the electronic currency. And now it's untouchable.
But when we lost the main copy, we tried to get at the backups, and those didn't work.
So you're saying that you lost $140,000 worth of Bitcoins?
Yeah, ultimately, yeah.
Is it the equivalent of having it in a safe deposit box and having lost the key?
It is the equivalent of shooting it into space. There's absolutely no way of retrieving it. But as it is, I can only look at it, I can go online and visit it. It's still there.
Wistfully thinking, oh, where is my goddamn password? That's a terrible story. I hate that story.
Unfortunately for Stefan, he can't just call up his bank to get his Bitcoins back. And that's a risk that I'm not willing to take. So for now, I'll stick with the good old US greenback. Because when it comes down to it, it's all about trust and the willingness to back up the value of what you call money. And the Fed is in charge of creating and managing that trust. Whether you make money, save money, or spend money, you are putting your trust in the Federal Reserve.